Allison opened the door and silently backed into the hallway. Nancy Mitchell slowly floated into the room, assessing her former daughter-in-law with a sharp look. Allison stoically withstood this gaze and even smiled maliciously to herself. Her mother-in-law probably did not hide a new hairstyle, a fresh manicure, or a successful relative. How well the authorities threw a bonus for a successfully completed project. This is exactly what the daughter-in-law called her mother behind the backs of others. Summers P. Anderson, Ethan's grandmother, Allison came in, shouted into the nursery, and an elderly woman. The woman broke into a smile when the boys ran out of the room. She did not often spoil her grandchildren with her visits. But sometimes there was something more in these visits, a desire to see the pedigree or assess the condition of her daughter-in-law. Allison did not know because even in marriage, the attitudes of these women did not go well. Only her mother-in-law always came before holidays or special dates. She preferred to congratulate her grandchildren in advance. So, today's visit of my grandmother coincided with the approaching 1st of September. How can you blame me for deciding to visit my relatives and pamper them a little before the start of the school year? Isabella Mitchell handed the boys a large bar of chocolate and gave each of them a ringing peck on the cheek. This was the whole former mother-in-law. Brought something inexpensive and not burdensome, liked and did not offend. Allison was not annoyed by her gifts. After all, a pensioner should not expect chic gifts. Do not forget about, the woman went to the kitchen to put on the kettle, half listening to the boys brag about their mother's gifts. After their divorce from Mark, 2 long years passed. Her mother-in-law was worried in vain. All this time Allison was not up to suitors. So, her status as a divorcee with a trailer did not change. The woman worked hard to ensure that this very trailer was in the office with the remote control. She was initially tired, in the literal sense of falling off her feet. Well, for 6 months now, as the woman's perseverance has borne fruit. Money in the family became freer, and just a few days ago, she passed a huge project and even managed to spend the prize she received. She bought the boys everything they needed for school, cute suits, backpacks, even a new phone. And there was not enough money. Andy, as a 7th grader, got an inexpensive smartphone, and Paul, an old push-button. He safely drowned swimming in the Souls and bragged to their grandmother about their mother's gifts. Isabella Anderson's friendly face at first turned red, leaving the boys who had turned around. Under a plausible pretext, panting, she trudged into the kitchen to her daughter-in-law. Have a conscience, hissed her mother-in-law, who was pouring Allison tea. While you're getting fat on your son, he's panting with hunger. Allison's jaw even dropped from such an attack. What, do you at least know? She retorted, dousing her mother-in-law and calmly plopped down at the table with an icy look. Allison's eyes widened in surprise, but the woman was not going to let herself be offended. Oh, so I'll tell you now, this is a huge amount. She leaned across the table to her mother-in-law and said almost syllable by syllable. 2,000 for each child to me on the table. Food is not enough. Isabella even turned away, pursing her lips resentfully. Allison, as if she had burst, the unforgettable Victor will swell up, not from hunger at all, but from the beer that she drank, pours into herself. I probably forgot that my sons ask for food every day, but I still need to get dressed and put my shoes on. I'm already silent about school supplies and toys. The woman switched to a whistling whisper, trying not to shy away. She jumped up like a dog. What are you lying about? Knocked over, Allison began gloomily mopping up the table. So you'll have to ask your son. Why? It's useless to accuse me of lying because he specifically got a job as a security guard in the parking lot to give less money. Frowning, the elderly woman slowly sat down again. Don't cheat, because he works on a construction site, Allison said hesitantly. With annoyance, she threw a wet rag into the sink. Yeah, maybe he works, but not officially, so as not to. My mother-in-law's face twisted in a vicious grimace. But yes, and you probably need to say thank you for slandering Victor. He can't do that with the children. In my life, I will not believe that it was Allison who disappeared. And she wearily waved her hand. Oh yes, what can I tell you, we would communicate with our son more often, we would know how things are. And then you blow everyone in the ass like a small one who grew up. And we, like a second wind, opened angrily squinting. And, in general, husbands do not leave good wives, she summed up in a rush. Allison just laughed angrily. So that he wouldn't leave, it was me who ran away from my beloved. I wish I had done it before. I did everything, I waited for the boy to grow up, naive. Isabella got up hard and cursed her grandson to say goodbye more. To be with this evil bone, she could not. Only from the threshold spat out poisonous ones in the face of her former daughter-in-law. Victor, reptile, should only be doused with slop. Allison only slammed the door with her shoulders. Although it was disgusting, I drank blood in my marriage. But the children kept themselves in check. Isabella ran out into the street, burning with righteous anger, that this was a scoundrel. Anger demanded an outlet. So I decided to visit my son today, it's a day off, almost evening. Probably at home, Krovanushka. Let him explain what all this means. An elderly woman rang the doorbell for a long time at a familiar address. But no one was in a hurry to open it, and then shuffling footsteps were heard in the back of the apartment, and Victor's rumpled hangover face poked out. I trudged unsteadily to the kitchen, and Isabella went into the untidy hallway alone. Victor looked out of the kitchen with a bottle in his hand and decided to relax in the evening. There would be tea. Judging by the appearance of his son, he relaxed in the morning but only ran into trouble. Mummy did not. She settled on the edge of the long unwashed table, looking doubtfully at the stale cookies. She was rarely here. Usually, the son visited her from grandchildren. Hello, they tell you that my son is happily weakened. Great. How are they doing there? Grandma smiled tightly. Well, they are all preparing for school with might and mind. There was an awkward pause. The problems of the former Victor family were clearly not interesting, and the elderly woman decided, I was going to ask for a long time, but I keep forgetting. You pay alimony to Olivia? Forcing a smile on her face, she nodded slightly. And how much, if it's not a secret? Victor shifted in his chair. How much it should be? That's what we give, a third of the salary. The woman squinted at her son's rumpled face. And what kind of salary is it? Not from the parking lot where you work as a security guard, you work there for a day or 3. Victor was clearly nervous. Ma, but don't start with the paperwork, it's all clear, you want me. So this is how I raised you, my children, to leave you and your mother to fend for yourselves. They got divorced, and pesky Victor made a weak attempt to protect himself from the hot iron, and Isabella seemed to go into a rage. At least you know what expenses are with 2 sons. The spoon flew back to my son's forehead. You don't understand a damn thing, you just need to fill your belly with beer. My mother stirred hot tea. Thank God, my father. Victor prudently jumped up. Yes, I understand, Mom, calm down, I understand. The woman angrily threw her weapon on the table. What did you understand? The son narrowed his eyes in anger. Isabella slammed her hand down on the table so that he would no longer unfasten it. But ask what they needed and what they needed to buy. Children should know that their father was near, even if they didn't live together. She turned away, shaking an uninvited tear from her cheek. Such a family is destroyed, you idiot, you idiot. At this moment she really was sure that Victor had lost a wonderful wife and mother of 2 sons. As if there hadn't been so many years of confrontation between them and Allison. Yes, I understand. Mom, please stop. My son huddled in a corner, gleaming from there. Isabella chased her son around the kitchen for a long time with a fly swatter, and then with a slipper. Then ordered him to throw out all the obscenities from the house, imperiously pointing to the beer bottles that were squeezed into the refrigerator. The next day, Victor caught his ex-wife on the doorstep of the office. Allison, you nervously shifted from one foot to the other. The boys have gone to school, soon you will buy everything you need. And on Sunday, I will take them for a walk, not believing. The woman was twirling 4-5,000th bills in her hands. What kind of fly had bitten the former man? What kind of attraction of unprecedented generosity? What could this mean? But most of all, she was interested in another question: where did such a huge red spot on the forehead of the faithful come from?